A look into a book with Balanagendran, an excavation for eternal bliss.
Vanakkam, Vandanam, Namaste, Namaskar, good evening and welcome to A Look into a Book with Balanagendran, an excavation for eternal bliss. You are listening to Radio Udaan, a flight of life. This is Balanagendran live from Chennai to come with a treasure. In your treasure hunt show, a look into a book, an excavation for eternal bliss. Dear listeners, 265 days and 2 hours is what the present status of the eternal journey that Radio Udaan has put in by believing all of you. And its belief hasn't been made wrong. Your support, motivation, camaraderie, and constructive criticisms have been incisive. Type in your address bar www.radioudaan.com radioudaan.com to continue the same as you have been continuing for the past 265 days. And here we are, Tuesday, tantalizing Tuesday, 9 to 10. A look into a book, a treasure that we hunt for our eternal bliss. Surely, every week is unique. Every Tuesday, 9 to 10 p.m. is innovative. Every Tuesday, the 60 minutes from 9 to 10 p.m. is high-flying, high-pounding, exhilarating treasure that we have been witnessing for the past 37 weeks. Now, it's time for us to have another look, another hunt, a hunt of glory, a hunt of thriller, a hunt of butterflies filling the belly. Surely, today, in 60 minutes, you all are going to feel that you need to cover up the butterflies that are growing in your belly. If you possess a big belly like me, then it's a big tough task as you have to cover up more butterflies than others. So give your feedbacks after the shows. www.radioudaan.com radioudaan.com. Very excellent, very good, okay, poor, good are the choices. Your choice is the key to open the door of success, as I always believe. And don't forget to feedback the shows that you are listening, as we are performing with zero experience. It is your ideas, thoughts, suggestions, valuable criticisms that will boost us to boom, to hold on to the voyage, to veracity, and to transform your life from the world of stress to the world of bliss. This is how the purpose has been built. This is what the theme of Radio Udaan, a flight of life. You can also pulse with us in Facebook and Twitter, the social media and the micro media. Very simple. Facebook.com/Radio Udaan, Radio space UDAAN. Type in the search box of the Facebook. You can meet our page, our group. You can join in both, and you can guide us to do more in this channel of glory, the channel of quintessence of coziness, Radio Udaan. Besides all, you can Skype me instantly. I'm on Skype now. You can also text us through Facebook. We are on Facebook. But as of now, if you want to say something to me directly, "Oh Bala, what are you doing? It's burning our ears," or "Bala, you need to improve yourself. Improve the book review." Anything that you like, you can Skype me. The Skype ID is Radio Udaan, RADIOUDAAN, where there is no space. I repeat, RADIOUDAAN. Skype is open now. Text me how do you feel about a look into a book, an excavation for eternal bliss. The tantalizing Tuesday taps the source of my mind, and the thing that I'm going to put in front of you, the paperback in which we are going to peep in, and the book that we are going to review, have a look at. Some of you might have read, most of you might have heard, few of you might have not got the opportunity to drown into the death valley of this writer. Yes, this writer. It's so simple to call her with a meager term or a cliched word that we put in for those who pen everything. She's not only a writer, perhaps the icon of writing. Her estate claims that her works have been sold and rated as third highest best-selling in the world, behind Shakespeare's and the Bible, respectively. The international translation has greeted her. The entire world lauds her. The United Kingdom Buckingham Palace quotes her. The writing community bangs with bliss. The writer that we are going to see, the creation that we are going to look now, is what the highlight that will write and reverberate the innovation and the uniqueness that you are giving to me to take different genres from 9 to 10 on every tantalizing Tuesday through a look into a book, an excavation for eternal bliss. As I said, her, she. Of course, we are going to travel with a fantabulous female writer, best-selling author. Even after her death, the posthumous release of her creations went on to hit the Himalayan range of appreciation. All her creations have attained its zenith and still stays on with pride and pool of information. A woman who has been critical by many conservative writers, we have to say. Her creations mind-boggled billions. Her copies have been sold till date more than 2 billion. Not million, it's 2 billion. Perhaps the Guinness Book records her as the best-selling author ever. And the World Crime Writers Association of Translationum says that her creations are the world's highest translated works, which has been translated into 103 languages. I'm not talking about religious, spiritual, or non-fictional text. If we consider religious, Bible stands first. If we consider non-religious, Tirukkural stands first. I'm talking about the author. The author's creation. She stands as the highest translated author, where her works have been translated into 103 languages. The modern creations, the monumental momentum that she has got since 1920 is still running without any blockade. A woman writer who is considered as master of suspense, a master of butterflies, a master of mystery, a sole proprietor of storytelling. Perhaps now you will guess. You may even find about whom I am talking. She is famously known as the Queen of Crimes. Born in the year 1990 at Torquay, Devon, England, on September 15th, the Queen of Crimes, Agatha Christie, has begun her writing career even before the First World War. The evidence says after 1910, while her mom suffered ill, then she suffered ill. That's where she began to pen. She started writing poems, short stories, non-fiction essays. In the year 1920, The Mysterious Affair at Styles, the first novel that has been published without realizing that the woman who has written The Mysterious Affairs at Styles is going to be the mistress of mystery in the universe. Mysterious Affairs at Styles, wonderful book. As soon as I read, that was the first book I read of Agatha Christie. Wonderful portrayal, a detective who is solving the issue. This is not about the adventures of Sherlock Holmes. That is another extreme. Both are similar in nature of thriller, but Sherlock Holmes is unique in his own way, and the detective Hercule Poirot is unique in his own way. But we are not going to see The Mysterious Affairs at Styles today. I have come with a special gift for you, a dessert that's going to make your tongue and your salivary gland to look down on your desk, to have the book in your hand, and to open the pages, turn the pages, crisscross, and underline Agatha Christie in your mind. Today we are going to see her short story collections. She has written the world's longest running play ever. Agatha Christie is not only a writer of crime fictions, thriller, mystery, but also her 6 romantic works is still in memory of many. Her longest running play, The Mousetraps, is still running as it has begun in the year 1955. Imagine from 1955 till now. It has crossed more than 27,000 episodes. This is what Agatha Christie. We are not going to witness the creations of a common writer, whereas we are going to be traveling with the better than the best. Agatha Christie's The 13 Problems, short story collections, 13 stories, 13 emphatic, innovative, inimitable, nonchalant collections which you will never find ever. Agatha Christie's The 13 Problems. The theme, core, purpose. The goal of today is a look into a book with Bala Nagendran, an excavation for eternal bliss on Radio Udaan, a flight of life.
बीते हुए लम्हों की कसक साथ
फिल्मी सितारों के कुछ खास लम्हात, कुछ खास जज्बात। सुनिए उनकी निजी जिंदगी की लव स्टोरी और वॉर की पूरी कहानी हमारे इस खास कार्यक्रम में, जिसका नाम है लम्हे लम्हे, कुछ खट्टे कुछ मीठे मीठे। हर बुधवार रात 9 से 10 मेरे यानी आरजे सुशील के साथ सिर्फ रेडियो उड़ान पर।
मुलाकात तो होगी।
एक मंच जहां मिलती है महत्वपूर्ण जानकारियां,
सवाल हो और जवाब दूं।
एक मंच जहां होते हैं हंसी और ठहाके।
वाह।
एक मंच जहां होती हैं चर्चाएं।
दूसरी वाली आपको नहीं समर्पित करूंगा।
नहीं कीजिए, बड़े स्पोर्टिंग।
आप पहले सुन लीजिए, उसके बाद कहिएगा आपको चाहिए समर्पण कि नहीं चाहिए।
एक मंच जहां मिलेगा लोकप्रिय संगीत,
और इन सब के बीच एक ऐसा मंच जहां मिलता है सब कुछ। लॉग ऑन कीजिए www.radioudan.com और जुड़ जाइए हमारे साथ।
A look into a book with Bala Nagendran, an excavation for eternal bliss.
Agatha Christie's detective crime fictions contains deadliest killing, bloodshed, but not war, and secret, hidden informations. The way she used the detectives. There is a reason for which I am quoting detectives, not detective, as I mentioned about Hercule Poirot at the earlier. Hercule Poirot is the most loved fictional character among the reader's world. He attracted the most, as Agatha Christie, given 33 novels and 54 short stories with this beautiful intellectual detective Hercule Poirot. Conversely, she has introduced a spinster, an old spinster, an amateur detective, perhaps we can say crime solver, Miss Jane Marple. But before that, it's necessary to say, is Agatha Christie the sole name? No. She has a pen name through which she has given 6 romantic stories. Mary Westmacott is what that pen name. Her real name is Agatha Mary Cloris Miller Christie. In 1971, the United Kingdom Queen Elizabeth II honored Agatha Christie with a Dame. From then on, she is remembered as the Dame Agatha Mary Cloris Miller Christie, or we simply call with the pet name Agatha Christie, the Queen of Crimes. And then there were none is recognized and voted by more than 600 fellow writers of the International Crime Writing Association, Crime Writers Association, as the best selling crime fictions ever, as it has been sold more than 100 million copies. So let's put a full stop to Agatha Christie's biography and the introduction. If we continue to do so, it will envelop the entire 60 minutes. As let's plunge ourselves into our today's purpose, the 13 Problems, the collection of short stories by the Queen of Crimes, Agatha Christie. So, apart from Miss Marple, we may witness Tommy and Tuppence, 2 Intelligence, and Sadarth Waite, Raymond West, Dr. Panther, Petrick, and Henry Lambrier, Joy, and so forth. Whenever we go into Agatha Christie, we have various characters. Everybody used to give their own reasoning, but Miss Marple or Hercule Poirot will emerge victorious with their intellectual ability to soften the blockage. Today we are going to see the first story of the 13 Problems, Tuesday Night Club. Miss Marple, her brother and the writer, Raymond West, Joy Lambrier, Henry, Dr. Panther, and the solicitor, Petrick, were sitting in St. Mary Mead. St. Mary Mead is the place in the United Kingdom where Agatha Christie introduces Miss Marple, through which we are traveling. Miss Marple, an amateur old spinster, as I mentioned earlier, watching these 5 Intelligence, out of which Mr. Henry is a retired police commissioner of a Scotland Yard. Through him, Miss Marple used to acquire the details of the case that she has to solve. In this 13 Problems, the 13 short story collections. First 6 is the story that is said and solved by Miss Marple at her house by sitting in an armchair, Saint Mary Mead. And the rest 6, she will be invited into the dinner by Raymond West, where she will solve, despite all the struggling obstacles. The 13th one, Death by Drowning, is solved by Mary Mead alone with the help of the retired police officer of Scotland Yard. Now the first story, Tuesday Night Club. A group of men sitting at a dinner party in St. Mary Mead, with Miss Marple at one end. Everybody began to speak. Raymond West, the writer, who has said, "Friends, let's assemble every Tuesday night. Let's call this as the Tuesday Night's Party, or the Tuesday's Night Club, where we can discuss the unsolved mysteries." Even while entering into the room, that's what Agatha Christie's speciality. She begins the story that Raymond West is beginning to enter the room by saying unsolved mysteries. Unsolved mysteries is what the favorite word, the favorite phrase of Miss Marple, our favorite detective. This is how the story begins. I quote: "Group of men sitting, Miss Marple, Joy Lembrier, Henry Clavering, Raymond West, Panther, and Brithwick." As story begins, Raymond West said, "There was a death in a party. 3 members were participated in a hotel. Mrs. and Mr. Jones, and the companion of Mrs. Jones, Miss Clara. 3 of them eaten the same food, but one of them died while the 2 suffered little unconscious status, from which they have been recovered. All 5 men were putting their own guesses and analytical thinkings in their mind, but none of them were able to come to the conclusion, except that there must be something conspiracy hidden behind this killing and this fatal incident that 2 people have gone to the status of unconscious mind. The maidservant Gladys has come into the limelight of the people. However, 3 people have eaten the same food, 2 faded, 1 died, stopped their thinking. No one was keen to question the ideas of Miss Marple, the same patriarchy. Actually, this is the way, the style of the Queen of Crimes to begin, Miss Marple. No one looking at her, the old spinster amateur detective. Finally, Henry Clavering, the favorite friend of Miss Marple, said and tapped the idea of the spinster, where she said, after reading the letters written by Mr. Jones to maidservant and to Mrs. Jones, there are numerous messages can be deciphered from this lovable words, said Miss Marple, through which she came to know that Mr. Jones is the killer. No one was able to agree this, but Miss Marple showcased one old family story which Raymond West is not at all interested, and puzzled to find the relationship between the killing of Mrs. Jones and the old family story. Miss Marple explained, Mr. John is the killer. But everybody questioned. He too suffered the fatal incident. These two, Mr. Jones and Mrs. Clara, the companion of Mrs. Jones, were recovered, fortunately, while Mrs. Jones died. Both of them, three of them, eaten the tintelober, and maidservant Gladys has made a bowl of corn flour as Mrs. Jones is not feeling well in her stomach. But after a few minutes, Mrs. Jones failed to put in her stomach with a corn flour. Hence, Mrs. Clara has eaten that entire corn flour bowl, though she was in dieting. On that day, she has eaten. This is where our Miss Marple uncovered the secret that is hidden behind. How she has found Mr. Jones is the killer is what the twist that we have to wait to find from our queen of crimes, Agatha Christie. It may be cliched, it may be monotonous to say, read this, you will like it. But really, today you can trust me. You read this, you will not only like it, you will become Miss Marple or Hercule Poirot. The 13 problems, you can get it even in e-text format. It is there. So you can retrieve and read it and enjoy it. It will be ingrained in your blood deeply, that I guarantee you. Stay tuned to find how Mr. Jones killed Mrs. Jones. What made Gladys has to do with it. 3 people have eaten the same food. 2 faded. 1 died. But out of the 2 faded, Mr. Jones happened to be the killer. Why Mr. Jones has to put himself into jeopardy to kill his own wife? What is the secret behind it? What is the letter says? What was that deciphered message of Miss Marple? Stay tuned to Radio Udaan of Light of Life. This is Bala Nagendran presenting to you the creation of the Queen of Crimes, Agatha Christie's The 13 Problems. In your show, a look into a book, an excavation for eternal bliss.
Words, words, words. Let's see in the ocean of words and explore its origin, meaning, usage, and many other known and unknown facts about it. Let's sail in the world of magical words and travel far with entertainment. To listen, Ocean of Words. Every Wednesday from 10 to 11 p.m. log on www.radioudaan.com.
कभी महक की तरह हम गुलों से उड़ते हैं, कभी धुएं की तरह पर्वतों से उड़ते हैं। ये कैचियां हमें उड़ने से खाक रोकेंगी कि हम परों से नहीं हौसलों से उड़ते हैं। जी हाँ दोस्तों, आप भी जुड़ जाइए हमारे साथ अपने ख्वाबों की उड़ान लिए, अपनी कल्पनाओं की उड़ान लिए, अपनी ख्वाहिशात की उड़ान लिए। लॉग ऑन कीजिए www.radioudan.com और चलिए हमारे साथ एक कभी न खत्म होने वाले सफर पर, जिसका नाम है रेडियो उड़ान।
A look into a book with Balanagendran, an excavation for eternal bliss.
As Miss Marple hit the jackpot this time by finding that Mr. Jones killed Mrs. Jones. How is what the twist that Agatha Christie gives us. It is that yes, Mr. Jones ordered maid Gladys to prepare a tintelobe spread with the venom. However, while eating, Miss Clara refused to eat the sweet because of some issues, so she saved. Hence, maid Gladys prepared a new tintelobe and given to Miss Clara. And Mr. Jones scrapped this poisonous sweet and eaten the rest. And Mrs. Jones, an innocent woman, eaten and dead. Miss Marple's idea surprised Henry Glettering, and he said Marple is right. Then, while inquiring, maid Gladys confessed that Mr. Jones had a sexual relationship with her and made her pregnant, and promised to marry her if she helped to kill his wife. That's how it has happened. However, after she delivered a baby, the baby also passed away. This is how Miss Gladys made Marple's hit a grand success. The Tuesdays nightclub and their first story of Mr. Henry's, the real investigation process of Miss Marple, is a sure shot that will make us feel the essence of a detective. Is she amateur? Is what the real question that erupts in our mind. Story 2: Ingots of Gold. Now it's time for the story in the next week, Tuesday's Night Club, to be told by Mr. Roman West, the writer and the brother of Miss Marple, where he said about the story where he went to Cornwall to live, where he found his new acquaintance, Newman. Newman and Roman have become friends, and they were traveling through train. And at the time, Roman met a police inspector, Burgeworth probably. Both of them were speaking and talking about various issues, especially the new shipwreck business that Newman has took as his new venture. the shipwreck business, the ship that has been capsized into the sea 6 months ago in Amrata, where Newman got permission to retrieve the wrecks, where he said the jewelries and the golds have been stolen from the shipwrecks by breaking the rocks of the serpent cockpit. But the reality is what the study. Few days later, while the storms has been announced, Mr. Roman West and Newman were staying in a room from where Newman wanted to go out. From then on, he disappeared. Feeling suspicion about this, Mr. Roman has went on to complain to Bajwar, the police. Everybody inspected, and they have found Roman bounded and gagged into the ditch, into the local ditch. And few days later, they went. The new police inspector and the friend of Mr. Roman West, Bajwat and Roman, went to meet 3 people in the bar who are known to Mr. Newman. That's where they have found a suspicion man, Kelvin. By seeing him for the very first time, Mr. Roman began to feel suspicion about him as he issued outrageous comments about the foreign inspectors, the policemen, and the foreign people are investigating the local issues. That's where things began to turn. In few days, there was an eyewitness among the 3 people who said they have found few people traveling via boat, taken up the cargo and placed it on the low, old seashore cave. Nothing seems conclusive. The tire that led to the cave of a lorry is the tire of Mr. Kelvin, the local gardener and the lorry shop maintainer, perhaps the owner. Nothing seems conclusive. Everybody returned. On this Tuesday, Mr. Roman said this to Miss Marple and to the crew, saying the analytical thinking has begun. Miss Marple hit the jackpot 2nd time in a row. She found the suspect is none other than Newman. Roman stunned. Newman has been found bound and gagged in the ditch, and the tire marks of a lorry through which the wrecks, the smuggling has took place, is the lorry of Mr. Kelvin. Then there is nothing to be suspicion about Newman. But Miss Marple enlightened everybody by saying the tire of the lorry is surely of Kelvin's, but the lorry is not of Kelvin's. This could be the reason. The tires of the lorry might have been stolen in the night from the garage and matched with another lorry to make it look like Kelvin, the convict. They have inquired the night nurse of the garage. She said no lorry has been dispatched on that day with the question of the proprietor. Then they have come sure Marple is absolute. And she also said there is no one like Newman. It is a person who had a pet name and done this robbery in the London strong store where he's stolen the gold through which he escaped. And this Rex smuggling and the ditch are the mere actions where he want to make Kelvin the scapegoat. While just saying this as a story, it will be something like kindergarten story as we used to listen the crow and the battle between the kings. But while reading the way Miss Marple solving the puzzle, it will make us feel extremely emphatic. We will become enthusiastic and we will dream ourselves of being Miss Marple. This is what the creation of Agatha Christie's essence. Story third, blood-stained pavement. The story begins now this Tuesday at the Tuesday's nightclub in St. Mary Mead, where Miss Marple and the crew assemble to solve another mystery. This is the turn to solve the blood stain that has been found in the pavement. The blood-stained pavement is a story of three people. Joyce Lambrier took the turn to say the story in the Tuesday nightclub, as everybody said to listen. The story took place in the Cornwall, where we have seen the previous story, the real case study that has been hit by Miss Marple without any mess. Let's see same thing is going to happen to this bloodstained pavement case or not. Agatha Christie's creation, The 13 Problems, emphatic short story collections. The reality behind that is that Joyce was working in the house of three people where they used to travel. One day, the person who is so-called Dennis has come with two women in two cars. In one, Dennison and his so-called plain wife Miss Marjorie was sitting. In another, a scarlet-dressed woman named Mrs. Carroll, was living, sitting and traveling. Later, both of them have taken Miss Carroll outside. Afterwards, Miss Marjorie and Dennis have come back. Carol hasn't come back. Joyce, looking at their activities, felt suspicion. And while talking to the gardener, Miss Marjorie has found the blood stains on the floor at the beginning of the cave of the house, and she felt startled. As soon as the gardener went and the Joyce has seen the blood stain, again the gardener and the Joyce have went to see the blood stains, but the blood stains were no more. Few days later, Miss Carroll has been found dead in the sea, as she has gone to take a dive into the sea, and her body has been retrieved from the waters 7 days after, and had a blow in her head, and the surroundings suspected of a dive into the sea on a hard rock. Nothing conclusive. Things have changed. Few years exactly 1 year ago, Mr. Joyce has found them in Spain, the Dennis and Miss Carol, with another woman. This is where he felt suspicion and he went to report the police. But the police have missed the event. Miss Marple and everybody began to sort out. Sketching work has begun to point out the culprit. Is there any suspicion? Who killed Miss Carol? If Miss Carol is killed, who is this who looked like Miss Carol? Who is the new woman? Probably the information says that Mr. Dennis has married again. She is the newly married wife of Mr. Dennis. What is the reality behind this? The third story, Bloodstained Pavement, says this very clearly. As Miss Marple began to say, without confirming herself, after undergoing the inquiry, and she said, Miss Dennison and Miss Marjorie are not husband and wife. Whereas Miss Dennison and Miss Carol were married for a long time. Mr. Joyce said, I have seen the gardener working on the Monday. He said Miss Marjorie is the newly married wife of Mr. Dennis before she found dead. Miss Marple said, there you are. You found that Miss Marjorie was the one who is dead. It is not Miss Carol. Mr. Dennis and Miss Carol, the wife of Dennis, are plotting a plan of making marriage alliance with new women, where Mr. Dennis insured them in big numbers, then kills them without evidence. This is what the reality, said Miss Marple. Joyce said, what about the gardener then? Miss Marple smiling and said, real gardeners in Cornwall won't work on Monday. Hence, Miss Dennis and his plot to woo everybody has been solved. The bloodstains were from the scarlet cloth that you've been missing to find. The scarlet cloth, as Mr. Joyce seen getting dried up at the pavement, where he has witnessed bloodstains. But he forgotten to realize that the bloodstains were dripping from the cloth of the scarlet, which has been said as Miss Carl was wearing. But the reality is, Mrs. Marjorie, the temporary wife of Mr. Dennis, was the one who was wearing that scarlet cloth through which the blood was dripping. This is how Mr. Dennis' case has been found, which is highly inconclusive before that. The sixth story that has been said at the St. Mary Mead is the turn of Miss Marple to deliver in front of the crew. Story 6, The Thumb Mark of St. Peter's. What Agatha Christie says. Let's come back and find out.
A look into a book with Balanagendran, an excavation for eternal bliss.
Story 6. Miss Marple took the turn to say the story, her own story, with her own cousin, who happened to be a widow. Miss Marple's cousin, Marble, married at the age of 22 to a Jeffrey named person who is hysterical in nature and insane in activities. Besides all the opposition from the family that she married, she was living happily. After 10 years of her marriage, Miss Marple came to know that Mabel's husband is dead and her cousin has turned a widow. Miss Marple sent a letter politely inviting her to stay with her for a while, but the requisition has been released in a polite manner by Mabel. 3 months later, Miss Marple's cousin begging Miss Marple to come and stay with her, where Miss Marple went to stay with her cousin, and she found that there were 2 more servants. One of the 2 servants is a servant of the cousin of Miss Marple, and another one is a nurse who is serving to the mentally ill father-in-law, the father of Jeffrey. This is where she has read the autopsy report, where the cousin of Miss Marple said no one is talking to her in the surrounding, as everybody gossiping that she, her whole self, killed her husband. After reading the exhumation and inquiring with the servants, Miss Marple couldn't find anything, and she wondered what happened, how he has dead. Everybody suspected that he has eaten a poisoned mushroom, but the servants were said he was rambling to swallow after he has eaten, and he dead like about a fish. That's where she was closing her eyes and meditating, getting herself to be enlightened, and found, as soon as she opened her eyes, at the fishmongering, the thumb mark, the marks that people used to call the marks of an eye drops, the venom solution of like a thumb mark of St. Peter's, and the case is solved by Miss Marple. Miss Marple directly went and inquired the mentally ill father-in-law. The mentally ill person laughed and said that he has mixed the eye drops solution into the water that Mr. Jeffrey used to drink before going to bed, because he heard that Mr. Jeffrey is going to put that father-in-law into the asylum of mentally retarded people. Hence, Mr. Jeffrey has been poisoned by the father-in-law. The way I've said in 3-4 minutes, it's just the excerpt of what is said in the most incisive way possible. Agatha Christie and her collections will be looked in coming segments as well, in a different moment, in different nature. Hercule Poirot, Tommy and Tuppence, Miss Marple are going to travel with us. So, as of now, I have only one thing to say. That is, if you have time, if you have a time for reading, or if you don't have a lot of time for reading, and take this, the 13 Problems of Agatha Christie, and delve into it. You will love it. I read it, I loved it, and I put it today in front of you. As of now, it's time for us to sit together as a listener. I myself would like to sit with all of you as a listener to listen to the Sports Galaxy of Swati and Shobra Saxena. Let's listen together. Till then, I'll meet you next week, next Tantalizing Tuesday, to our Tuesday night treasure hunt, as Agatha Christie puts it, as the Tuesday night club party. Till then, take care of yourself. Good night. Buenas noches. Vanakkam.
A look into a book with Balanagendran, an excavation for eternal bliss.